What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars Retro Discussions. Today we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 5, Rookies. This episode was directed by Justin Ridge and written by Stephen Melching. The cookie for this episode is the best confidence builder is experience. So without any further ado, intro guy, take it away. Clone forces rally. As war escalates in the Outer Rim, the Jedi Knights are spread thinly across the galaxy. Many new clones are rushed into service to support their Jedi generals. Unfortunately, because of the relentless demands of battle, many young clones must join the struggle before their intensive training has been complete. These clones, manning a vital network of tracking stations, are all that stands between the Republic and invasion. Thank you, intro guy. I'm glad we were able to come to an understanding based on last week's circumstances. But you guys, this episode is the first episode of Clone Wars that we get that is all about the clones. The Jedi aren't involved with this one really at all. Like, we see Obi-Wan and Anakin, but they really don't play a factor in the story. They're not a part of any of the action. All they're really doing is just trying to find General Grievous. And it's interesting because when I was watching the featurette for this episode, Dave Filoni had talked about, this is one of the more convincing episodes where you kind of feel like something bad could happen, because when it comes to like having the Jedi on screen, and specifically like Anakin and Obi-Wan, it's like they're not gonna die. And even if there are other Jedi on screen, like the Jedi have the Force, right, to get them out of situations where the clones don't have that. So it's easier for you to relate to them and see their struggles and hope for them to push through their trials and tribulations. Giving each clone a different personality is also key. And that's where I have to shout out the wonderful D. Bradley Baker for bringing that to the clones. For those that don't know, D. Bradley Baker voices all of the clones. Just think about that for a second. All of the clones in the Republic Army that we see in this show, all voiced by one guy. All the clone-heavy episodes, D. Bradley Baker carries on his back. It's like to the point where it's like he's so good at what he does, the dude got his own show. Like, I'm pretty sure D. Bradley Baker voices like 90% of the characters that are in Star Wars The Bad Batch. But the three clones that we're mainly introduced to here when it comes to the rookies are Hevy, Fives, and Echo.
My designation is Trooper 27-5555, sir. We call him Fives. I'm Hevy. This is Echo.
Echo seems more like the quiet, shy one. He doesn't really care about battle much. He just likes catching up on the rig manuals. You have Hevy that, is just obsessed with battle, right? He's battle hardened. He's the one carrying around the heavy repeating blaster, and he always loves a good fight. This is just the starting point for Fives, you guys. Like, his arc becomes much more clear later on, and he has a lot of crazy episodes in this show. But there are other clones at this base, including a sergeant who is like, look, if the droids get past this station, they can surprise attack us on our homeworlds of Kamino. And this is something that they continue to put over throughout the entire episode. Different people, like the Sarge, between Rex, Grievous. Speaking of General Grievous, yeah, he was our big villain for this episode. He's also been our villain for the past 3 episodes as well. He sends in his, what they're called commando droids, which are basically modified B1 battle droids. They're a little bit more like super battle droids as well. They're a lot more skilled in battle. They can change their voices. They have tough armor. And Dave Filoni even addressed it in the featurette, like, well, some people might think, like, why not just mass produce these guys and they would help win the war? And it's like, well, you have to remember too, like, battle droids like that are really good, they're also a lot more expensive. And he pointed out as well is like, yeah, the commando droids at one point, they do take the base, but then there's also another point where a bunch of battle droids come in and they retake the base. So sometimes those B1s, man, if as long as you got enough of them, it might be all you need. All right, I feel like I'm bouncing around a lot here. I'll try and get back on track. So one thing I did want to talk about real quickly is about General Grievous and him being spotted in the Balmorra system. That's what at least Anakin says, right? Like, they're trying to find Grievous. Poor Anakin hasn't had any sleep, and he's like, look, I'll sleep after we find Grievous. Clone Intelligence spotted him in the Balmorra system. That was weeks ago. Since then, he's vanished. This is now the second time that they've brought up Balmorra. They brought it up in the Shadow Malevolence episode when they're in the nebula, and he's like, they call it a Balmorra run. And then they reference Balmorra here, but like, I'm just trying to think, I don't think we ever see Balmorra in the Clone Wars, which is interesting because they keep referencing it. Now, where I know Balmorra from personally is playing through Star Wars The Old Republic. It's one of the planets that you go to in that game. And I just recently played through the Star Wars The Old Republic games just within like the last few years, so they are still very much like fresh in my mind. And I love the Knights of the Old Republic games. I really like the first one I really enjoy. The second one probably not so much. And when I say I enjoy them, I mean more for their stories. First one I enjoyed, second one not so much. And then Star Wars The Old Republic just has like a ton of different stories throughout that game. I haven't played through all the DLC stuff, but like I've played through the main stories, and a lot of them I really enjoyed. And in every single one of them you go to Balmorra, and they got like that really cool theme when you land on the planet, the it's like ingrained in my head. We also get a scene between Grievous and Ventress. Ventress makes like a quick cameo in this episode, and she's apparently a spy on Kamino. So we kind of learn here, right? Like this is a joint operation between Grievous and Ventress, which would make sense, right? Because like if the Separatist goal is to take over Kamino, this would be something that you would want like multiple of your best people on. And Grievous and Ventress, definitely two of the best that the Separatists have to offer. Why not put them together for this operation? It makes all the sense in the world. This episode also gives us our first swear word in Star Wars, and it's the word hell. I think it's Hevy who shouts it, right? He's like, "What the hell was that?" when the eel eats up Cut Up.
What the hell was that?
I remember my parents not being too thrilled about that one. And apparently a lot of other parents were upset about it too, because I remember, like back when I first watched the episode on Cartoon Network, like they had the line in there, but then whenever they showed replays of the episode, they took that line out. Or you would just say like, "What was that?" Now, if you go and watch the episode on Disney Plus, they have the line in there. I don't know, it does feel like we're getting to a point where like swear words are becoming a lot more frequent in stuff like this, but I mean really the F word is the only one that for whatever reason is like the only word that's off limits. I don't know, I just find it interesting because like, and maybe like everyone has like different upbringings and stuff and that's cool, but like I just remember back in the day like my parents like refrained me from using any of those swear words. Even one like crap, which I feel like everyone uses nowadays. But you know what's interesting, you guys? We're like 10 minutes into this episode and we haven't even talked about the other two characters that were a part of this episode, and that's Commander Cody and Captain Rex. If I'm not mistaken, you guys, this is our first time I think that we've seen Rex since the movie. Cody, I believe, had that one moment in the first Malevolence episode. Like it was only for a brief moment where him and Obi-Wan were chatting. So this is our first time really seeing these guys in action since that movie. Their whole story throughout this episode is they're going around to different outposts, just making sure that everything's all good to go. The commando droids ambush them, not before one of them is disguised as a clone. And it is very interesting, right? Because the commando droids have like, what, 2-3 fingers, but the clones have 5. I always found that interesting. But Rex immediately picks up on it when one of the boys launches a droid attack flare from below.
A droid attack flare? Oh, Rex! What the heck are you doing?
Rex just immediately with the headshot, and he's like, "Yep, just what I thought. It's one of those new commando droids." And they get ambushed by them. This is where they show like how tough their armor is, because like Cody shoots them like 3 times, and he still gets back up. And then I think it took like both of them shooting at one. It took like 10 different shots to finally take him down. Though interestingly, it seemed like the headshots were doing 1-shot, 1 kills. Because if we fast forward a little bit to after Rex and Cody meet up with the boys and they start to retake the base, Rex is killing some of them with like 1 headshot with his pistol. But before that, they get off the platform, the droids destroy their ship.
Off the platform!
Then you got Echo 5s and Hevy just walking around. "Take your helmets off. Take them off now." And they take them off, of course. They see, "Oh, you guys are one of us." Rex shoots the eel in 1 shot, and he like goes over to it and like takes some of its blood, puts it on his hand, and eventually he just like plants his handprint on Echo's armor.
Looks like we got ourselves a batch of shinies, Commander. Shinies, sir? That's right. Your armor. It's shiny and new. Just like you.
The other line that I really love from this episode as well, while they're playing that fantastic clone theme, is, "The name's Rex, but you'll call me Captain or Sir." And they all go, "Sir, yes, sir." I love that.
The name's Rex, but you'll call me Captain or Sir. Sir, yes, sir!
The clones retake the base. One of the commando droids pulls out his sword, which I think was cool, right? Because it's the first time we see them with their swords. Rex, being as skilled as he is able to take him down. And then Echo and Hevy argue about who took down the last droid. But then they get to the window of the base, right? And they're like, oh shoot, there's a separatist fleet coming. They're mounting a full-scale invasion.
It looks like a separatist fleet.
That's why they commandeered the outpost. They're mounting a full-scale invasion. We have to warn Command.
And that's where Rex then decides, all right, we got to destroy the base. We have to warn the Republic about the incoming invasion. They'll get word of it when the all-clear signal stops. Because that was another thing that was established throughout the episode, why they couldn't get help, is because the droids sabotaged the transmitter and they hot-wired the all-clear signal. Which is basically telling them, right, like, the base is fine, there's nothing wrong. But if either their all-clear signal stops or it stops transmitting, then they'll know that something's up. Echo brings up the idea, this moon freezes for over half the year. We can use liquid tabana as fuel to heat the base.
Liquid tabana. Highly explosive. Good.
Thing I love is when Hevy takes that heavy repeating blaster and he goes over the door, the droids knock on it, reinforcements arrive, open up, Hevy opens it. You didn't say please.
Didn't say please.
That was always something me and my friends loved to talk about back in the day, is you didn't say please all the times. And like I said before, there's a lot of battle droids and they might be dumb, right? They might be dumb, they might be funny, but they make up for themselves with their numbers. And if you have enough of those battle droids doing the job, then they're gonna get it done. Because you see it, like, the boys gotta fall back. It's like, all right, there's too many of them. We gotta go. Rex, time's a-wasting. Let's go. Rex and Echo are working on the detonator while Cody, Fives, and Hevy are holding off the droids. And Rex can't get the detonator work. So when Hevy comes back, he's like, Hevy, see if you can fix this. Which I would assume makes sense. Like, Hevy's probably a little bit more of a weapons expert. I mean, I say expert, he's only a rookie, but he's probably got a lot of experience in dealing with that stuff. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, the detonator isn't linking up to the bombs. So it's like, all right, this isn't good. There's got to be another way. All the other clones have fled the base through the vent, the same vent that they did earlier in the episode. And Hevy's like, all right, the remote's not working. I'm going to have to detonate it manually, which means he's going to have to sacrifice himself. And Rex is like, all right, we got to get back up to the base now. And he's like, Hevy's like, I know what I have to do. And to Hevy's credit, man, like, he's taken out as many droids as he can. He starts getting shot, and it's like, all right, this dude's just, like, limping around the base at this point. Rex is, like, pleading for him to respond. Soldier, respond, talk to us. His gun ends up jamming, so then he just has to throw it at the droids, and he tries to, like, bend down to get the detonator, and he gets shot, like, 3 times. Now, another thing that it talks about in the featurette, which I didn't even notice right away until I watched through that, but when Hevy gets shot, the music in the scene stops, and all you hear is his heartbeat, which I think is, like, such a nice added touch, because you just hear, like, thump, 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 thump. And the droid's like, do we take prisoners? And Hevy just goes, I don't. He sets off the bombs manually, and the base blows up. And I think it was like Fives or Echo that says, Hevy always did hate that place. So then the base stops transmitting. Anakin and Obi-Wan immediately know what's up. It's like, all right, yep, sound the invasion alarm. Let's get the fleet going. Let's do this. Grievous gets mad because he's like, I didn't tell them to blow up the station. Matthew Wood, shout out to Matthew Wood. Comedy battle droids. We talked a lot about the comedy battle droids last week, you guys, because it was such a big part of that episode. But here he's like, but isn't it good that the base is destroyed? And Grievous is just like, idiots. The Republic fleet arrives. Grievous panics because he's like, we're outgunned, get us out of here. The final part of that episode is Echo and Fives becoming members of the 501st, and Anakin and Obi-Wan give it a medals, be like, I'd be proud to serve with you guys anytime, anywhere. Rex says, you're exactly the kind of men I need in the 501st, and Echo, I think it was Echo that was like, look, sir, with all due respect, we failed our mission. We don't deserve this. And Cody's like, no, if it weren't for you guys, the Republic wouldn't have learned about the invasion until it was too late. So yeah, this was like, again, a very clone-heavy episode. It gives us insight into some of these clones and who they are. And it was after this episode, I'm like, man, I wonder when we're gonna see these guys again. Talking about the cookie real quick, the best confidence builder is experience. I think that kind of applies to a few things in this episode, right? Like, Rex obviously has a lot of experience, and that's why he was so confident, like, we have to retake this base, we will take this base. And then for him to be like, I'm always first, kid, when they go to retake the base, and I think it was like Hevy that says, permission to take points, sir? And Rex is like, no, I got it, I'm the first one in. I don't know if that was necessarily meant to be like him showboating. I think it's just more of like the the commander way, right? Or the captain way, I guess, for Rex, if you will, where it's like, first one in, last one out. Like, Hevy did have a confidence about himself. He always had a confidence about himself throughout the entire episode, but even in the end, like, he knew what had to be done. Over the years, this episode has become one of my top 5 favorite episodes of the first season of Clone Wars. At the start, I don't think I highly regarded it as much, just because it very much did felt like a standalone episode, and we don't really see much of Echo and Fives for a little while, so then it just comes to a point where it's like, okay, well, what was the point of this? And also because it's just the beginning stages of Clone Wars, like, I don't have the level of investment in the clones as I do now, or even like just as the show kept going. Because the more the show goes on, the more you care about the clones. But at the start, it's like, you do have sympathy for them, but it's not like the sympathy that you have for them as the series goes on and the more you watch the show, and you know what I'm saying? So yeah, you guys, I think that's all I've got to say about this episode. Obviously, rest in peace, Hevy. So glad to see Echo and Fives moving up in the clone rankings, and excited to see where we go next. Next week, we are going to be talking about part 1 of a 2-episode arc. It's all about a little droid that we all know called R2-D2. Thank you all so much for watching. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video with others to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.
The name's Rex. But you'll call me Captain or Sir.
Sir, yes, sir!